Hey guys, welcome back to LS Vintage Design. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today we are going to talk about vintage photographs. But we are not just talking about vintage, we are going to go all the way back to antiques. But let me fix this camera. Okay, sorry about that, you guys were a little bit tilted. But before we do, I want to show you some beautiful antique art, vintage art, antique and vintage photographs, as well as some beautiful antique furniture. And then we're going to talk more about antique photographs and vintage photographs. As you know, there are so many different types of vintage photographs. And I'm going to show you images of 4 or 5, I can't remember how many I pulled, 4 or 5 different groupings. These were like from the 1800s through the early 1900s. But before we get into those, I thought I would show you these, which are from the 50s and 60s. And these are just black and white photographs. I bought these at an estate sale. And we're going to talk about the different types, and then we're going to talk about what you can do with them. So I'm going to jump over now and show you some antique types of photographs. They're really cool. This first photograph is actually the first type of photography I want to talk about. And this is called a daguerreotype, and it was invented by Daguerreau in the 1830s, and it was popular from 1830s to 1850s. This is the first commercial type of photograph that is out there. And how this photograph was made is you take a copper plate polished to a mirror finished. The mirror side was treated with a chemical smoke, and then you put it in the camera and you left it in there until basically the image kind of burnt into the smoked up, highly polished copper plate. And that is a daguerreau. The next one is an ambrotype. This type of photography was from the 1850s to the 1860s. And this is where a negative image was put on glass, and then the back or the other side of the glass was painted black. And this was your first really historical portraits. This is what you'll see a lot of soldiers, a lot of women, dignitaries. The upper class had their photos. You'll notice, you'll recognize the ambrotypes type of portrait. Now from 1850 to 1930s, you had the tintype. And the tintype was a direct positive image on metal. So the metal would be in the camera, and the image, it's a direct positive. You know, when you do a negative, it's flipped over. But a positive is just how you're looking at it with your eyes. After the tintype, there was the carte de visite. And this was the calling card, guys. And what it was the picture was taken, imprinted on a very, very thin piece of paper that was then put on cardstock. And on the back, you might have your name, where you're from, or it might have the photographer. It could have different things. And you would use these when you would go visit somebody. Used to be called a calling card, carte de visite. The calling cards, or the carte de visite, or CDVs, were 2.5 by 4 inches when they were finished. Now, cabinet cards were from 1866 to 1910. They were a little bigger than your calling cards. They were 4.25 inches by 6.5. They were cardboard images. They were an image backed, and the image was placed on a heavy cardboard. And they always had the name of the photography studio on the front, on the bottom. And then lastly, I want to talk about the cyanotypes, which we still do as artists today. You can still do a cyanotype. Get some cyanotype paper, you might put a leaf on it, set it out in the sun, and get this type of image. Well, from 1842 to 1930, this was a type of photograph. And your photographs were all monotone, and they were all blue. So we talked about all the different types of photograph history. We hit the big ones. And we talked about what they were printed on, what they look like. But can you still find them? Yes. Are they expensive? I know I have sold the I have my notes here so I can pronounce it. The daguerreotype prints. They are on copper, they're heavy. Now the ones I had were just about, that size, like 2.5 by 2, very small. But they were like $40 because they are on copper. Very, very cool. You can polish them, they can get a shimmer. Some things I thought would be cool to do, it would be, of course, to make a setting or a tablescape and use those as place cards. You could also have them line the table with candles, and the candles would bounce off that copper. Yes, you're gonna have strange people's pictures on your table, but it's a vibe. Trust me, it is a look. You could also hang them from a ceiling light, and make your own type of vintage photography chandelier. They are gorgeous. Some other ideas that you can do with different types of photographs, mostly photographs like this from the 50s and 60s, these. You can cut these up and use these as paper dolls, because I just bought these as an estate sale. I have no idea who these people are. But as you can see, I can cut these images out and have great real life paper dolls. Get a car in there. You can make these into people for a junk journal if you wanted to. You can use old photographs like this to cover a tray. You can put the vintage, if you find daguerreotype, if you find calling cards or cabinet cards, or the ambrotype, tintype. All of those would look beautiful in a glass top table. You could arrange them, have them looking up. Again, tablescapes or decorations where you have candles, or areas where you have a lot of candlelight, especially these like early ones, because they're printed on glass, they're printed on metal, they're printed on copper. They are going to cause a shimmer and a shine. Cyanotype, they're blue, they're monotone. Okay, they're monotone. Those would be beautiful if your home had a theme of blue in it. If you have the ginger jars that are blue and white, and you want to trade, but you want something different, you don't want the same old, hunt down cyanotype photographs. They've got that beautiful blue color to them, and create a collage tray. Get some napkins, mix in some photographs, get some wallpaper, something to combine. It would be a really cool collage. You can use old photographs in art, whether it's the metal or the glass ones, or it's paper. They can all be incorporated into art, either by collage or by just sticking them on a canvas as telling part of some story. So don't think that just because old photographs are old and you don't know who's in them, that you can't use them for decorating your home, gallery walls. This photo that I saw while I was in Dallas, this image, this photograph would be beautiful on a gallery wall, maybe a dining room, something of that. It's really beautiful, and my photograph probably does not do it justice at all. So guys, if you want me to kind of talk about how I look for vintage or antiques for clients, let me know down below. something like, how do you shop? How do you know what to get? How do you do this? Leave that comment down below and I'll be happy to tell. Also, don't forget to check out my blog. I went into old photographs in a lot more detail over there. So you're definitely going to want to head over there and learn more about all the different types of photographs, uses for them, history of them, all that great information. And of course, the blog link is down below. Guys, I will see you on Friday. Take care. Bye.